the leaders of this team, this is a week for, every week's a week for you to step up, but especially this week coming off a loss. What's it been like kind of just getting this group regrouped after a loss?
First and foremost, I thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But being a leader, it comes a lot of responsibility. So being able to make sure that everybody's cool and calm and collective going into the brand new week and brand new team. Obviously, you don't want to lose, but that's part of the game. And in life, sometimes you're gonna get knocked down. And what is your response to that? You know what I'm saying? You're not going. Are you gonna stay there, or are you gonna grow? See how you can get better from that. So I just gotta, me as a leader, I just gotta make sure that everybody, they're all, level headed, not worried about the past, not focused on the future, just being present, worrying on what we got right in front of us.
6 sacks allowed is obviously quite uncharacteristic. But when you went back and looked at that, how much do you take ownership of? Because you're
I
looking back
take
at 12.
ownership of every one of them. That's under us, and as me as a leader to learn from that. Like I said, obviously as offensive line, you don't want to see something like that. But I know my guys and Coach Terry and the law firm. We're going to get right, and we're going to focus on what we got to learn.
What were the big lessons to be learned from that game and kind of what Indiana presented?
Obviously, you can't go in thinking that you're gonna, beat everybody. Indiana, they had a good game plan. They got good players all over the board. Kudos to them. They did what they did, and they came and compete. We can't just, be lackadaisical. We can't be complacent. You got to make sure that we're always on fire, no matter who we're facing. Whether it's, best team or whether it's not the best team. You just got to make sure we play everybody at an elite level.
Back on the right.
What have you seen from Dante this week? Obviously, that was an uncharacteristic game for him. Have you seen him bounce back and kind of attack this week?
Yeah, man. Dante, obviously, he came in with a lot of juice. He's been coming in, making sure and emphasizing that everybody has a lot of juice and energy coming in. And I think another thing he's been emphasizing in me as a leader, too, is to make sure that we have joy, in this game and to have fun. Because at the end of the day, it's hard. It's hard to do what we do. So we just got to make sure that we have joy and happiness coming into this week and, just restart and then reload.
We've heard a lot about you as a leader, but Coach Lanning was just talking about how Brandon, even being a freshman, he's not necessarily a guy who leads with his voice, but has led by example so far. How have you seen that as one of the other leaders on this team, seeing him kind of develop into that role?
Man, you talk about a guy who come in and made an impact. You talk about a guy who come in and just not follows the rest. He just does what he does. I've been seeing that since he came here. Like just seeing him early in the morning, doing what elite professional level players would be doing. Coming in, getting in early, making sure you're warm, stretching, and just being able to study the film and everything. Like I see that kid, the way he works, he's gonna be a special player.
What is your relationship like with Dante in terms of kind of setting everything protection-wise pre-snap, and how are you guys growing there? Because obviously you've dealt with some more experienced quarterbacks in the past. Maybe this is something that he's working on still.
Yeah, obviously, me, I can see what's right in front of me, the front seven. Dante can see the shell and edge. So just being able to communicate, because sometimes I can't see what he sees. So it's him seeing rotation from the field and, the safeties. I can't see everything. So Dante's going to alert me if I'm pointing here. And if Dante sees something else, then, okay. We like to say the QB reigns supreme. And just yesterday, we were able to get a protection meeting with the running backs and the quarterbacks last night, just being able to, being prepared for Rutgers.
All right, Zach.
Talk about Brandon and how professional he is, a true freshman. That's not unique to this team. There's a lot of true freshmen making a high impact. How unique overall is that, though, to have a team that's so successful and have so many true freshmen kind of leading the way? Not leading the way, but contributing so much.
It's elite. It's going to pay off in the future, but it's also paying off right now. Just seeing a guy like Brandon doing what he does, him and Iffy, honestly, seeing them both play at a high level, at high college, especially in the Big Ten where we're playing at, having those two young guys coming in, stepping up and making plays, it speaks for themselves and how they attack everything. And like going back to Brandon, like I said, like I see him every morning, over there in the treatment room. I can see him after practice getting some extra work with some of the older guys. And one thing that I did like about Brandon is that he surrounded himself with elite guys like Dylan Thieneman, for example. I can see him every day having breakfast with him, whether or lunch or dinner. I can just see him connecting, trying to ask questions like, oh, you know what I'm saying? How do you become that elite level? And what did you do to get to that part?
Going back to what you'd said about joy and finding, how do you define joy and what does that look like on a week-to-week basis?
Man, just waking up, and for me, I just wake up and I thank the Lord every day that I get to wake up another day, being able to breathe. You know, not a lot of people is very fortunate to wake up. So just being able to wake up and open my eyes and just to be able to play the game of football. You know, there's a lot of people wishing they could be in my seat today. Just making sure I'm not taking advantage of the blessings the Lord blessed me with, and just trying to emphasize on everybody else. Like, man, like look where we're at. You know, we all prayed for moments like these, so why let it waste? So just come in here, have enjoy every single day.
During the spring, the veteran leaders on the team, like you and multiple other players, just talked about making sure that every position was kind of playing up to the Oregon standard, knowing that you had a lot of young guys that were going to make an impact. Now that you've kind of seen the way that a lot of these young guys have made an impact, what role do you think that the way that they decided to train in the off season and get to that Oregon standard, what impact has that had in your success this year?
Man, it made a huge impact. Like you got multiple guys besides Brandon. Like on the offensive side, you got guys like DeCorin Moore, you got guys like Dare Hill, Jordan Davidson. Those three, man, they surprised me, man. And just seeing the way they work every single day, asking questions and just not being, afraid to ask questions. Because a lot of guys, they're afraid to be wrong. But sometimes you have to learn. You know what I'm saying? You can't always be right. You're gonna learn from those mistakes. And when you get to the field, it's gonna show out in the field. And obviously, you see what those young freshmen making an impact, and the success on the team is going up.
I'm going to ask you about both Jordan and Dier. What's impressed you with them, not just as young guys, but also as just talented running backs who made contributions? What is it about them as players that stands out to you?
I like their joy they bring in the game every day. Like just seeing those guys smile every day and come into work, and just the relentless efforts and fanatical energy that they bring every single day. Like no matter what the situation is, whether you're facing some good times or some adversities, those guys always come in with a smile on their face and come to work every single day and make use of every opportunity that they get.
The guy in the middle, double teams, combination blocks, obviously a big part of what you do. But what's make you so successful at that specifically, where you can give that help to your guard and help them create a better angle and then climb to the second level?
Man, that's kudos to my coaches, man. I appreciate, Terry and the law firm. They did a great job of making sure that was being developed over here. And to my guys right next to me, to the guys in the room, just making sure that we're all on the same page. And they gave me the confidence knowing that I can trust them to do their job, and we just go over there and execute.
James? What stands out to you about the Rutgers defense, particularly the front seven, what you'll be making the line calls against?
Yeah, I mean, they do a great job, of bringing some stuff. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of variations of things that they can bring, but we don't know they could add something just for us, based off film. So we just got to be prepared and be able to adapt and execute.
All right, Zach.
Every team is different. You've been on past teams, seen past leaders deal with losses and kind of bounce back from that. What stood out to you about this team and this specific group and how they've bounced back after this weekend?
Just not coming in and letting it dictate our season. Obviously, like I said, you don't want to lose, but just seeing everybody come in every day with an energy, some sense of urgency, just being able to work and to learn. These guys come in every day and work every single day. So just being able to see the guys coming in, working, and just not letting that, dictate their season or dictate what they're going to do. Just focus on what we got ahead and just, hopefully we meet them again.